So we're here actually in the immediate aftermath of doing some work with Mike, who has a little reflexive tendency to kick. He's just a little quick on the kick by nature. Now you can see that right now he's out there and he has something tied into his tail. Our segment is going to show the process of tying that into his tail and working him around to help him get over that little allergy he has to having somebody or something bumping around his hind legs. Now, what I'm going to say is, this is a very useful thing to do when your horse is ready. This, I'll tell you in advance, was not ugly. If I'd done this 6 months ago, it probably would have been ugly. A lot of the things that look easy are easy because of when you do them, when the horse is ready, when the time is ripe. So always bear that in mind. Say to yourself, well, here's my agenda, here's what I'd like to do. Is the horse in line to do that? Or do I have to do more backup work to make this more likely to succeed? So that's just a word of caution, maybe even a word of wisdom, if I can claim that. Do things with your horse when they're ready, and they'll work out, and they'll look easy, and they'll be easy. Nobody gets hurt. Thanks. So we're here with Mike. We're going to do a little experiment with him to take some of that reflexive kick that he has in him out of him. That's been his go-to vice, is if something bumps him around the hind end, if somebody gets back there and startles him, I don't think he would kick you on purpose if you asked him to, but he reflexively kicks when something stirs around back there, and that's not the best thing. I also kind of owe an apology to our horse vet, Dr. Catherine Geary, who encountered that firsthand when this colt went down to the clinic to be castrated. She thought rightly that it was best to clean out his feet before he went into the drop stall to keep things cleaner. And she said when she went to pick up his hind feet, he kicked so fast and so hard that she was very glad she was not in the way. And in the end, they just let him in, tranquilized him, and removed both the dirt from his feet and some other parts. Since then, I've handled his feet a lot. He's had his feet trimmed. He's doing okay. But I sense, and when I was working with him a little while ago, he sort of confirmed that in the right situation, he would again go to that kick as his resistance of choice. And if I had to pick a resistance I don't like, kicking, biting, and striking are right up there. So whenever I have a horse that's a little quick on the kick, I'll really concentrate on that and get them to where they're desensitized. And I don't really like that term, but in this case it fits. Desensitized to things around their back legs. So what I'm going to do is, I've got a show sheen jug here. It's empty. I'm going to tie it into his tail and then move him around a little bit. Now, come on, move up here. Now, it's entirely likely that he'll kick at that, and it may get a little ugly, but what I think the goal is I'm timing the ugliness to where maybe I have the balance of power and I can help him through this, as opposed to having it happen in a real life situation where you have to deal with his back end, or where a dog bumps into him, or where a little kid runs up behind him, which you don't want to have happen. This is not by any stretch a nasty colt, but that reflex is there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this into his tail, and then I'm going to let that bang on his hocks a little bit. I'm going to keep him on a line because I don't want him to panic, which I don't think you would, but panic and run around with this dangling off his tail. Now, I will make a confession. I did something really dumb this morning, and that is I wanted to comb out his tail a little bit, and I put show sheen on it. That will make this much more difficult to tie into because it's so slippery. We'll see how that works. I've got a plan B if it doesn't hold. The knot that you use, if we can get a shot of this, is technically called a sheet bend. You take the tail and you take a piece of cord or rope. you lay it across the tail. You then fold the tail up. That gives you 2 pieces of tail. It's doubled. Quit. Yeah, and they can get a little reactive here. Then you take one wrap around that slippery doggone tail. And tuck it in. And maybe I can show on a little better angle here how to do that. So you put the cord through. You pull that up to where you want it. You double the tail. You fold back around and come back through and tuck it in and then pull it nice and tight. That's the secret sauce, is you got to pull it nice and tight. And there are times when I'll put a little sand in a bucket or in a jug like this to give it a little more weight. Now, we're going to see what he does. This is real life. This has not been done before, and he may object. So I'm going to drop that and step the heck out of the way. So he's aware of it. He's being pretty good. I can see my knot is not going to do the best because of my fine grooming. Now I'm going to stop him before he just shakes that out. And we'll go back on camera in a minute when I get that secured a little better. So what we've done, I tried to fix that problem with the show sheen, and I just wrapped a little vet wrap around the top of that, and that should hang in there a little better. Now, what this will do, see, it will bang him, but when he stops, when he just lets down, the pressure goes away. So there's a release built into this process. So I'm going to move him, and it's going to bump his hocks. And with him, see, he gets used to it. So I want to stop him fairly frequently to where, see, and this will be a little different feel for him. To where it's a new thing for him. So he wags his tail. That's okay. You can fight flies with a show sheen jug and probably kill the living heck out of them. Let's go off to the left. You'll feel that a little different. It'll start banging you a little more. Let's go ahead and trot. Now he's a clever little devil. Look at him. He's picked his tail up to keep that off his hocks. Yeah. Now, is that hurting him at all? Nope. And you know what? That startle is going to come out of him from doing this. That time I have it tied a little long. It wrapped around and whacked him one in the ribs. That's all right. Now the interesting thing is, been a little while since I'd done this with one. I did this with his pasture mate, the filly we also bought at the open box rafter ranch sale last year. And she just went off like this was no big deal. She said, "Boss, if this is what you want me to do, I'll do it." And I appreciated that. He's saying, "Don't do that to me." And I'm just gonna have to say, "I'll never hurt you, but I'm gonna do what I need to do." They're 2 very different horses. I like both of them, but in different ways. Now, could you get into a lot of trouble doing this? I'm beginning to question whether I should have shown how to tie that knot in the tail, because you get the wrong horse, you take the wrong approach. For example, would I do this out in a big open area? Well, you could have your horse pull loose and he could be down on Route 95 before somebody caught him. In here, in a round pen like this, you're pretty safe in that way. Now, Here's a test for you. No. See, that's all right. There's a test for you. Back up. That's what all I had in mind, Mikey. He says, I'm backing up, but that thing's telling me to go forward. Well, you know what, bud? That's just the environment talking to you. There you go. When I'm talking to you, that's the voice you got to listen to, is me. Go on, Mike. There you go. That's not so bad, is it? Now let's just let that soak for a minute. I need to load your boat, but I don't need to sink it. Yeah. Now, you know, when we move, that's going to clatter and bang again. You can really have some fun if you put some little stones in this, because it sort of jingles and makes a rattling noise. I thought I'd be a little kinder to him and maybe to myself. But I said in an earlier segment, your goal is not to get hurt, not to get your horse hurt, to end your session as quiet or quieter than you began, and to maybe accomplish something. The accomplishing something is optional. Sometimes you're not going to make progress. Sometimes it'll be a mistake. But if you do no harm, then at worst you've wasted a little bit of time, and that's all you were going to be doing that day anyway. I spent my whole life wasting time with horses and enjoyed every minute of it. So there you go. He's relaxing with this. See, he's wagging his tail, and I'm asking him to back up, and he says, that's altogether more than I can handle right now. So he flogged himself with that a little bit, and he didn't jump on top of me. I will confess I was hearing footsteps in my mind when I walked away from him, though. Back up. And let's go around to the left. Come on, buddy. But see, if you do this with a horse that wants to get the angle on you, they want to straighten out, and they get this in their tail and they kick, they pull that rope straight, take off away from you and kick. You just got kicked right in the face. And you don't want that to happen. So you want to have your horse very willing to yield their back end. And not try to get the drop on you. And a lot of times that horse that kicked, he's kicking at that jug. He doesn't mean to kick you. But tell that to your neurosurgeon. Here, see, he's finding all these little spots. All these little spots. And Dr. Geary, if you have to work on this colt again, you're going to be able to take a nap between his hind legs, I promise you. May take a few sessions, but we'll get this all sorted out. I'm pleased that he's making progress now. I'm not going to do this endlessly. You could, if you chose, at this stage, I could turn him loose and just let him walk around. And maybe I'll do that while we close the segment off, because the real panic of this is gone. And I think maybe it would be just as well to allow this guy a little time on his own to think this the rest of the way through. Now, I'm still very aware that he could blow away when I turn him loose and kick me in the brisket. And I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to step away. And just say, go on, Mike. Just walk around and do whatever you want. You're on your own time. What is sort of nice is I've just been annoying him, but he says, well, could I just hang out with you? Well, you probably could. Well, that's a good sign that he's relaxing. He could have filled that jug if he wanted. So, that's an example of just inventing stuff that might help a specific horse. But he's relaxed enough to take a leak, and he's flogging himself with that jug. And it's one more life lesson for him, and it's one less likelihood that he's going to go to that reflexive kick later in his life. So there you go. He's done, I'm done, we're done. Thank you.